reflected about.
Greetings of the day, everyone. I'm privileged to welcome you all in the third edition of Orange City Literature Festival organized by SGR Knowledge Foundation in association with GH Raisoni University, powered by Raisoni Group of Institutions. I am Saurabh Jaria, delighted to be your anchor for today's session. Life in Kashmir after Article 370 and its impact, with the esteemed panel of retired Major General Chandrasekhar Samansar and Mr. Ashraf Wani in conversation with Lieutenant Colonel Atindra Godbole. In a country where we treat our brave soldiers as a true hero, a face of God who protects us and sacrifices their sleep so that we can dream big, give us a life of freedom and pride. We don't know how many times they have sacrificed their own lives. And even after doing so much for our country, these humble gentlemen will always smile and say, I can do it 1,000 times. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that a flag doesn't fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of these soldiers protecting it. A goosebump moment for all of us to have one such braveheart son of our motherland India, Major General Chandrasekhar Samansar. Sir was commissioned in the army in March 1971. He joined one of the oldest infantry regiments, that is, Maratha Light Infantry, which has a rich history of more than 250 years. Since 1971, he had actively participated in Indo-Pak conflict in 1971, counter-insurgency operations in northeastern states of the country and Jammu and Kashmir, peacekeeping operations of Indian Army in Sri Lanka, and has also had the proud privilege to fight our adversaries on the Siachen Glacier, which is the highest battlefield in the world at an average height of 20,000 feet above sea level. Now that gives me more goosebumps. He has been decorated not once, neither twice, but 5 times for exceptional bravery, outstanding leadership qualities, and administrative acumen. Most noteworthy awards being Ati Vishishta Seva Medal and Seva Medal by the President of India. After 37 years of dedicated and devoted service, which itself tells the glory of this great gentleman. To the nation, he retired in 2008. Since November 2008, during his second career, he had undertaken an assignment as a director of a firm which provides turnkey electronic security solutions to the corporates, hotels, industries, and other clients. The company specializes in homeland security solutions. He has also been nominated as the director of Maharashtra Ex-Servicemen Corporation by the Chief Minister of Maharashtra with an immediate effect from 2012. At present, Sir coaches students to improve their memory and also carry out fingerprint analysis of especially the students to guide them to select suitable streams for the student as most suitable career in future. Graphology, that is handwriting analysis, and numerology are yet other fields that we practice. It is an honor to have a person whose life describes value and pride. I welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for joining. Our second speaker, who will be collaborating with Major General G.V. Samant, sir, on this panel will be graced by a journalist who was a broadcast journalist and is also a household name in the Kashmir Valley itself, with over 25 years of rewarding experience in the field of journalism, reporting, and broadcasting. He has reported the various facets of Kashmir conflict, culture, socio-political landscape from every nook and cranny of the region. Besides this, as a widely celebrated journalist, this gentleman has reported from the war-torn Afghanistan, Northern Ireland, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. He began his career in the mid-1990s as a newsreader at All India Radio and joined TV Today Network Limited 3 years later, in 1999. Currently, he works as the bureau chief of Jammu and Kashmir for India Today Group. Our second speaker for this session, someone who served in the war field but in a different way, sacrificing or nearly endangering his life to cover the groundbreaking reports to make sure that the bravery and valor of our unsung war heroes must reach to each and every citizen of our country and made them proud of our lion-hearted soldiers. None other than Mr. Ashraf Wani, sir.
Thank you.
Sir studied engineering and graduated from the University of Kashmir in 1993. He also postgraduate diploma in conflict reporting from Thomson Foundation at Cardiff University, United Kingdom. As an expert in conflict reporting, Sir knows the craft and with an analytical speed narrates the volatile situation with a calming demeanor. He has interviewed the who's of Kashmir's political landscape and also political militant commander including LET founder Hafiz Saeed and Hizbul Mujahideen Supreme Sayyid Salahuddin in Pakistan administered Kashmir in 2001, again risking his life for our country. He has a distinction of being one of the first television reporter to break news about Kargil war in the late 1990s. The veteran journalist has covered the annual holy pilgrimage like the Hajj and Amarnath for the first time for television and has also reported from the dangerous Tora Bora mountain of Afghanistan. Not only that, he was the only journalist in the world who reported on the fall of Afghanistan to Taliban from last week of July 2021 in Kandahar. It's a pleasure to have you present, sir. Two great and brave heart sons of India serving the land to the fullest, with different beauties on the very same battlefield, giving epitome example of what true patriotism is. Such stalwarts in the panel makes me even more excited to introduce our moderator for the day, Lieutenant Colonel Atin Rigor sir, an exuberant leader who proved his worth not only during the war but in the corporate world too. A decorated officer with immense knowledge in the fields of HR, engineering, and a lot more. Another braveheart son of our motherland, India, Lieutenant Colonel Atin Rigor sir. Sir has been acknowledged for achieving excellence in leading HR policies and programs, strengthening talent acquisition and development management, performance and team management, retention initiatives, and optimizing allocations with management of multiple resources. Sir has a 21 years plus of verified experience in the Indian Army as Lieutenant Colonel in the Corps of Electronic and Mechanical Engineers with the expertise in improving personal productivity and performance, as well as enhancing processes for procurement, logistics, and warehousing of material and equipment. Sir has proven success in administering large budgets building and mentoring culturally diverse teams, negotiating with business partners, liaising with the government officials, and managing stakeholders in the corporate sector. He has more than 3 years of corporate experience and expertise specializing in HR and administration domain, including 2 years plus as Chief Administrative Officer of a group of companies. I once again welcome you all, my dignitaries. Dear audience, brace yourself for a conversation you will surely remember. And without skipping a moment, I humbly invite Lieutenant Colonel Atin Rigor sir, to lead us ahead. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh. Thank you, General Savan sir and Ashwani ji, for joining me for our panel discussion on life in Kashmir after Article 370 and its impact. And without much ado further, with your permission, I would take this opportunity to start this panel discussion. May I?
Absolutely.
Firstly, as a matter of fact, most of us who are averse with who have been reading news are aware that the Article 370 as well as the Article 35A were abrogated by a presidential decree by Sri Ramnath Kovind, the Honorable President of India, on 5th August 2019. Ashraf Waniji, could you please explain the background and the genesis of these articles and how and why they were needed to be included in the Constitution?
Absolutely very important and main question, because many of the people in the country still not know what this Article 370 was. There are different perceptions with different people, in fact. But talking about the Article 370 or 35A, first of all, we should look what the Jammu and Kashmir is. In fact, most of the people when see Dal Lake and Gulmarg and the valley of Sonmarg or some tourist destination in the Kashmir Valley on the pictures in the Bollywood, they think that this is the Kashmir. But here we will talk about the Jammu and Kashmir, what it was before the independence of India in 1947. The Jammu and Kashmir state was a huge and a large state, very a state like many other states which were independently run by the rulers the uh, uh, or the emperors in different categories. And Jammu and Kashmir was a state which we are seeing in the maps of not only in India but in the Pakistan and in fact now in the Chinese government and official maps. Uh, Currently, almost all of this whole Jammu and Kashmir, some 55% area is with the India. That includes Jammu, Kashmir Valley, and also the Ladakh. Then 35% of this that Jammu and Kashmir, which was in 1947, is with Pakistan. That is the POK, Pak occupied Kashmir, and Gilgit and Baltistan. Then also the 10% of that state is with China. That is the reality. That is Aksai Chin. And some parts in Damchok, which was being, the Aksai Chin was gifted by Pakistan to the Chinese and they are controlling that. But when India got independence with many other states in the country, this state was very tough one because on one side, the rulers in the Pakistan, particularly I can recall the Prime Minister of the Pakistan then, General Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and the Ayub Khan had said that it's a blank check with the Pakistan. The state of Jammu and Kashmir is a blank check whenever they will like, and they will get it, and they will merge the Jammu and Kashmir with the Pakistan. And there was some substance in that argument because the Jammu and Kashmir was the only state which was a Muslim majority state. On the lines when the division of India and Pakistan took place, it was decided by the British people that all those areas which are mostly Muslim populated areas in Pakistan and all those areas which are the Hindu mostly populated areas will be the India. And in that context, Jammu and Kashmir could have been the part of Pakistan. But the Jammu and Kashmir state was ruled then by Maharaja Hari Singh. He was a ruler, Dogara ruler from Jammu, and he was equally loving with this state as any ruler in different parts of world loves with his own country or own state. But when the partition of India and Pakistan took place, the Pakistan started the game. They invaded into Jammu and Kashmir by the invaders, which are mostly known as Kabilis. They started taking the Jammu and Kashmir into their control. The Maharaja was not equipped with so much of army and so much of the equipment which could lead the war. So Maharaja took advantage and asked for help to the government of India, Indian Army. And Indian Army first time landed in the month of October in 1947 in Jammu and Kashmir. And then they started to push away those invaders from Jammu and Kashmir. They had reached to Srinagar, in fact. In Baramulla, they were there. And finally, they went back, but they take control of some parts of Jammu and Kashmir, which is currently known as Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Then war took place between India and Pakistan in 1947, and after the war, finally a line of control was established between India and Pakistan, which still exists, and that is a kind of a ceasefire line between India and Pakistan. One part of Jammu and Kashmir is with Pakistan now also, and major part of the Jammu and Kashmir is with India. When the Maharaja of the Jammu and Kashmir merged the Jammu and Kashmir with the India, he said that I need the support and help of the Indian establishment, Indian army, but there should be some special provisions for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. At that time, he thought that probably the Jammu and Kashmir is a kind of a territory which could be influenced easily. There are very less resources of horticulture, agriculture, and also it is surrounded by so many countries. There should be the opportunities for the people living in the Jammu and Kashmir. That is why he said to the Indian authorities that external affairs, defense, and the communication should be taken over by the government of India, which is the main control of any territory, and other things which are the local issues like how you govern the government, how you rule the government, how you choose the assembly, how you vote, how you work, that will be decided by the Constitution Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir. And that was going on till 1954. In fact, when first Constitution Assembly was established in the Jammu and Kashmir, Karan Singh, who is the son of the Maharaja Hari Singh, he was first Sadr Riyasat of Jammu and Kashmir, and Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah, who is considered as the most popular leader of the Jammu and Kashmir, was the first Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. That is also the history. And in fact, under the Article 370, some special provisions were given to the Jammu and Kashmir. Number one, that they will have their own court. There will be no any kind of influence by any Supreme Court or any other court of the country in the Jammu and Kashmir. They will have their own constitution in the Jammu and Kashmir, inside the Jammu and Kashmir. They will have their own flag, and also 35A, what you said, that is giving that was also giving some special provisions and some rights to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, including Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, whoever was the resident of Jammu and Kashmir, that he is the only can do the government job in the Jammu and Kashmir state if he is the state resident, if he has the state subject. Whoever was the resident of Jammu and Kashmir, he was only able to purchase or sell the property that includes land in the Jammu and Kashmir. Those were the special provisions under the 35A, which were given to the Jammu and Kashmir under the Constitution of India. But it is also fact that this constitution was this article was temporary, 370, 35A, and all the authorities were given by the government of India to the Constitution Assembly, in the Constitution of India, to the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly, that they can change their laws, their affairs, their role towards the country in that particular assembly. And many modifications of the Article 370 took place due to that window, or we can say that Constitution Assembly or the Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir, where then the Sadr Riyasat was converted into the governor, as in the rest of the country we are seeing the different states. The post of Prime Minister was changed into the post of Chief Minister, and also the Supreme Court and all the central agencies like CBI, then Supreme Court and other were allowed to. They can also do their things in the Kashmir Valley. Earlier, they were not allowed to indulge in the affairs of Jammu and Kashmir. But Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution under the Article 370. It has its own flag. And as I said, under the special provision of 35A, what were the special states of those people who were the actual residents of the Jammu and Kashmir?
Thank you. Further to this question, I would like to pose it to both of you, sir. Please, sir. Please, sir. I think sir needs to unmute.
Hello.
Sir,
Can
you're
you hear
audible
me?
now.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you're
Mr.
audible.
Vani has covered in great details as regard Genesis is concerned. I would like to put in two pennies of my thought. Actually, this was done at the behest of Sardar Patel, who was given the responsibility by Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru to talk to Dr. Ambedkar, because earlier Mr. Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah had gone to Dr. Ambedkar and told him, he says, I will not do it
It is sacrilege. I will not do it. So he went back to Mr. Nehru, and then Pandit Nehru possibly told Sardar Patel, "Ki, please convince him," and that's how Sardar Patel went there and spoke to him. And at that particular time, what was agreed that both these articles will be put as a temporary measure, only as a temporary measure, and that's where we always say that mix business with pleasure. So in this particular case, the politics was mixed with personal friendship. And that is how this article came about. And after that, unfortunately, this is my personal view, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree to this, all the governments at the center have actually never been serious about resolving the Kashmir issue. They just wanted to pass the time, keep the thing burning. We'll talk about it little later as to what was their interest at that time. It is the fault of the center. They have never tried to resolve Kashmir issue in totality. That's all I would like to say.
Further to what you both had said, sir, do you feel that there was probably any other solution rather going for the inclusion of these articles in Indian Constitution, maybe political or military or some other form, which could have changed the course of the history?
Should I start?
Mr. Wani, please.
I think not. Basically, it was a kind of a trust because, as I earlier said, that what were the compulsions also with the government of India that it was a kind of a bowl which was just interested. That one should also accept it that there was an option with the Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah. He could have, and he was approached, in fact, by the Pakistanis also at that time. He could have started or merged with the Pakistan because it was an independent state. In fact, it was had made accession with that. But he rejected Pakistan. That is also the history, and that is also thing which Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah publicly said in different rallies, because as I said, he was very popular and a mass leader in Kashmir at that time. He convinced to the people of the Kashmir, particularly the Muslim majority of the Kashmir, that India is better option with us than Pakistan. He conveyed that message to the people of the Kashmir Valley. And in fact, Nehru was also a Kashmiri Pandit himself. He was aware about each and everything of the Kashmir, its culture, its history, and other things. Being a first Prime Minister of the country, Jawaharlal Nehru, that is on the record. He also assured to the people of Jammu and Kashmir here in the Srinagar's Lal Chowk, historic Lal Chowk, in a public rally. Time will come. We will give you a chance to choose your destiny. So that was a statement of a Prime Minister. That was not a statement of anyone else. But meanwhile, after few things in that scenario, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah was put in the jail because he wanted that kind of independence, or we can say autonomy to the Jammu and Kashmir. What was assured in first instance to him when he started his job as a Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. And if we will see other solutions, what you said would have opted for other things, and this would not have. I think then it was very impossible. 370 could not have been put in the Indian Constitution. The accession or the merger of Jammu and Kashmir could not have been possible with India. That is my point. That is further. Jalal Sahab can brief on that, because they have much more knowledge about it. They can add in that.
I would like to say only one thing, that for Kashmir problem to resolve, military is not the solution. The solution lies politics. It is the political leader who has to resolve this problem. It is a political leader who have to convince the population of Jammu and Kashmir that being with India even today is in their interest, and not only that, not only talking about it, but actually doing things on ground. What they talk about development and this and that, actually, that has actually not happened. So doles of money have been pumped in, and we all know where that money is gone. Most of it. Like even the erstwhile Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi used to say, you spend 1 rupee out of that, only 10 paisa goes to the people. 90 paise goes here and there. That's exactly what has happened in Kashmir. So the solution lies in political solution, nothing else. And we have to carry the people with us by ensuring, by being with them in whatever form. Make sure that the development takes place, people are looked after, the jobs are given, and after that, why should anybody think of going here and there?
Continuing on the same point, sir, then it's been like it took 67 years for the abrogation of these articles. So can we say it is primarily because lack of a political will or any other reasons? Could you add into that? Sir?
Yeah, it was political will. It was basically lack of political will. And everybody was scared. What will happen? And I would like to say that as regards the politicians are concerned, whether they are in Kashmir, the Kashmiri politicians or the politicians in the center, I think everybody wants to keep this problem festering. Don't let it blow up out of proportion. Keep it under control. Keep it festering. Because the kind of funds that have been poured right from 47, I mean, what is the kind of development that we get to see? Nothing much has happened. Even now, the present government, after abrogation of Article 370, I promised we will put 23,000 crores there. Where is that money? 46,000 pandits were forced to get out of Kashmir Valley. They went south of Banial Pass, or maybe Jammu and southward. Out of them, so far only 3,000 people, and that too students who have gone there. What about the rest? I mean, we're talking is very big. I mean, abrogation of Article 370. Yeah, you passed the the ordinance was passed, and after that, both the houses of the parliament approved that. Of course, a great amount of reservations on part of the opposition parties. But actually, after that, 2 years, what has actually happened? I've not been to Kashmir. I've been there in 2019. But that was before the abrogation took place. I had visited my battalion, which used to be in those days. And then I wanted to show my wife the downtown area. That's where when I was operating there, I have even now on my laptop, I've got a map of Srinagar. Because whenever some action takes place, I look at it and I remind me. So we knew each and every bridge, right from zero bridge, right till Saura and beyond. Right. And we knew the downtown area like back of our palm. And I wanted to show my wife. I went everywhere, and she was quite scared. I even gone to Jama Masjid because at that time in uniform you could not enter Jama Masjid. This time I was and I took my wife inside. We went around there, and people were quite happy. And I told them I was here long back, 91 to 94. The things were all right. I mean, we can always earn the trust of the people. Being with them. So I think what was there was only lack of political will, and nothing else.
I want to add something about it.
Yeah, please, Mr. Wani.
Basically, what my point about it is the expectation what was with the government of India that things will change in the Jammu and Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370. That has not yielded the result. In fact, the situation has got much worse. than the expectations of the central government. One thing I could not understand as a layman, as a person who lives in the Kashmir Valley, what will be any kind of advantage abrogation? What was the advantage of Article 370 for the country? Was any problem? Was not Indian Army operating in the Kashmir? Was not Indian operating on our borders? Himself was also here. And there was completely Indian establishment here. If there was some special provision or some special right for the people of Jammu and Kashmir under the Article 370. What it changed? It changed anything in the country by abrogating the Article 370. Has it helped anyone in the country, in our security establishments, in anything we can say? In fact, it has worsened the situation. Earlier, we had only one enemy on the border, that was the Pakistan on one side. Now, we have created another enemy. What most of the experts, particularly the security experts, believe that after the abrogation of Article 370, China had become one line of actual. That is also a kind of a elusive China, because much part of the Jammu and Kashmir is with China. They have grabbed some land. I have reported extensively on the line of actual control, and seeing the change during the last 20 years in the approach and the aggression of the Chinese. What it was 20 years back, and what it is now. And in fact, we have some unfortunate incidents like Galwan, and then the tension in the Pangong Lake. We were earlier going. I have visited Tilfinger. Beyond Finger 8 and 9 and 10 in 2000. I can't go beyond Finger 4. In fact, in the Pangong Lake now. So what it has delivered for our country, we have abrogated 370. It has not brought any change in our system, in our country, but it has worsened the situation in the Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, today we are talking together. We are saying that 2002. BSF was removed from the internal security. Army was not so much earlier on the security front in the Jammu and Kashmir. Then creating Rashtriya Rifles, most part of the security is with the Indian Army. But now today I am reporting that BSF has been re-inducted internal security in Jammu and Kashmir. Additional some 200 companies were brought August 2019 when 370 was abrogated. And after the recent killings in the first week of October, we are deploying another 50 companies of CRPF in Srinagar city. The scenario which was changing from 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had kind of a tourist movement, not so much presence of the security bankers in the Srinagar city and in different parts of the Kashmir Valley. Now we are returning back towards that. So, Jalal Sahab, I would like to get because you said earlier also that it is not a military solution in the Kashmir Valley. Kashmir is a political will, and so far, unfortunately, whichever political party came in the power in the center, they could not handle the Kashmir and resolve the Kashmir issue. The government, the NDA government in the center. Did you think that this move, the abrogation of Article 370 has helped to the country? Or it is simply a politics? Just please, because I was before listening somewhere. A student was called by our sisters channel that what the government has, they haven't hit 370. When my reporter asked that what advantage you have with the 370, he said that before when it was 370 we were not allowed to visit, but now it has been abrogated. We can go to the Kashmir. And also what on the 5th August 2019 said that anyone can come and purchase the land. Has just seen the record. Not a single lot of land has been purchased by anyone. And why a person from a person from Nagpur, Maharashtra will come and purchase the land in a conflict while he's not a safe. Why a businessman will invest in a place where there is no sure whether he's secure or not. So please, I want to share your experience. To brief this my point. What I am saying. Am I right or am just saying something different?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Wani, because so far we haven't seen any positive results as regards this abrogation is concerned. I think it was only politics, which the present government wanted to play, and that's the fact of life. That's a fact of life. So I agree with you. So far, no visible advantage has been seen. No development has been seen. Everybody is talking about we'll get the funding back. Where are those poor people? They're still there in those hutments there in Jammu area, or all over the country. Nothing has happened. In last 2 years, nothing has happened. Let's see whether they need to do something now or something. And 2024 coming, they will have another gimmick to come back to power.
So then we can actually summarize this in a way saying that so the political mileage that was to be garnered from this abrogation is probably not been achieved till a proper governance and a will is not implement. Would that be right to say that? To summarize it?
Yeah, I think so.
General Sawant sir, specifically coming to you, sir. Since 1990, ASPA, that's the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, has been enacted in JNK and quite a few other places in Northeast. So with this abrogation, how do you see defense forces which are deployed in the Kashmir Valley? Does things get easier for them, or the challenges increase? How do you see it in the future?
The first thing is about this particular act, AFSPA. This gives immunity to the forces, especially armed forces, against the Indian Penal Code, against the Criminal Procedure Code, and the civil suits, unless they have been sanctioned by the central government. There have been cases when central government has sanctioned certain amount of legal actions to be taken against some culprits, and they have gone through that. So this gives you immunity, and that's about all. It is invoked when the civil administration or the local government is unable to handle the law and order situation, and the armed forces and even the police raise their hands up. And that's the time the defense services are inducted, especially the Indian Army, and then they are given the immunity to handle the situation there and bring the things under control. Now, abrogation of these two acts, that is 370 and 35A, has brought JNK on par with most of the states in India. I'll say most of the states, not all. If you go towards the northeast, there are some restrictions there also. You cannot buy land in Mizoram today. You cannot buy land in Manipur today. Right. So I'll say it has brought on par with most of the states in India. But I don't think it poses any additional advantage or a challenge to armed forces. Because whether Article 370 was there or not, the disturbances were going on, the requirement of army was there. I mean, if you talk about 1990, before 1990, you can imagine we had only say about 30,000-40,000 people there. That's all. And that too on the borders. Except for the Saveria headquarters in Srinagar and headquarters 15 Corps in Badami Bagh. Rest of the people were there on the border on the LOC. There was nobody inside. And see, after 1990, what has gone? At present, we have got almost as far as the army, Indian army is concerned, there are more than 1.5 lakh people inside. Or I'll say they have gone to 2 lakhs. And apart from that, the amount of, like Mr. Vani has just told him, 200 companies were inducted in 2019 August. After that, additional 50 companies have been inducted. I mean, you throw a stone and it will hit a person anywhere in Kashmir on a guy with uniform. So that's how it is. But I don't think it has given any advantage or any disadvantage. This application has not helped as far as neither has it helped, nor has it posed any problem. And I think futuristic, they are talking about bringing statehood to Jammu and Kashmir. At present, these are union territories. Subsequently, when the statehood is accorded, the elections are conducted. Even then, dependency or army, I feel, will continue if the disturbances, law and order issues, and terrorism continues. So it's not that you have abrogated Article 370. The governor says that. I mean, he's claimed that the violent incidents have come down to a certain extent. They have come down. But the army is still there. The additional central armed police forces have been inducted. So it has not made any difference. Abrogation has not made any difference. As a matter of fact, you wanted more people to keep the things under wraps. And even if you give the statehood, and if this particular disturbance continues, the army will again be required, whether it is statehood or union territory, or if you go back to previous thing, 5th of August. So as far as the armed forces are concerned, no difference has been made.
Since General Sawant sir raised the statehood, Ashraf Wani ji, I would like to ask you, in the month of October, Shri Amit Shah had mentioned that post delimitation and elections, the statehood would be granted to J&K. So what exactly does that mean in the futuristic context?
Actually, frankly speaking, as I said earlier, that what was expected by the central government, Home Minister, Prime Minister himself, that in fact they put it on record inside the Parliament House that give me 40 days, give me 4 months, and you will see how the Kashmir it has not changed. I live here, children are here. What I am saying and what I was mentioning earlier, that the situation has deteriorated because there is a kind of a we can say the people living in the Jammu and Kashmir, including the politicians in the Jammu and Kashmir, most of them, not all, think that something has been done to the Jammu and Kashmir without their consent, without their suggestion, without they taking into the confidence, and there were so many efforts by the government of India, by the LG's office, by the Home Ministry, that we will bring some fresh faces, but they are not getting absorbed in the society. They are not becoming the leaders. So finally, as the General Sahab said, it is not a military solution, it is a political solution. And the political solution will be delivered by a politician who is popular. You did not know who is the popular, because in fact, the common people are not trusting these politicians. I did not know, and I think we still not have any kind of a leader, a mass leader in Jammu and Kashmir, whose word will be accepted and behind him the people of the Jammu and Kashmir particularly, because most of the problem is in the Kashmir Valley. The Kashmir who will follow him. We have militancy at rise. I was just our conversation. I was checking the data after the recent killings, the target killing in the month of October. Some 35 militants had been killed by the security forces in different operations. And out of them, 90% of them are those who have taken the path of militancy during last 23 months. So this is a very challenge for security agencies, for the government that knew that educated young boys picking up guns against the state, against the establishment. And killing is not a solution. Colonel Saab can agree with me. We everywhere put a list. We have list 300 terrorists, 200 terrorists, 250, and most of them are unknown. Somebody is killed. Our security establishments come to know he was active he was operating by that name. He was active from Nadia, and he had infiltrated in that year. He has got seen the military. And how many will not in any radar. That is a big threat, because there is a militancy now in the Kashmir Valley, where you did not know who is militant, who is not militant. Particularly after the target killing, help of CCTV footage taken these crimes across Srinagar city, that who was involved in these killings, and then finally police came. 2 or 3 of them had been killed, who had involved with target killings. But if we go to their history, very fresh and new, that is a very challenging for the security, also people also, and government also. So killing is not a solution. Kill 100 people, 100 people become terrorists in the Kashmir Valley, Jammu and Kashmir. You will stop the infiltration. They will adopt tactics for infiltration, and particularly after the establishment Taliban in Afghanistan, the jihadist big force worldwide has got united. We see the people from Syria coming to Afghanistan. We see the people from Afghanistan coming to Kashmir. Colonel Saab may be aware when militancy started. Most of this conflict, this militancy was handled and carried out by the foreign mercenaries, by the foreign militants. That content can't be considered. In fact, that has increased, particularly after the Taliban government in Afghanistan, and that is worrying as well as the government. So, government of India needs a lot of groundwork. They want to. Once again, the Prime Minister said on 15th August, दिल्ली की दूरी कम करना है. कहीं न कहीं अगर मैं ये बात बताऊंगा, जब तक जम्मू कश्मीर में जनता के सरकार नहीं जीती, तब तक कश्मीर में अमन की आशा करना मुश्किल है. क्योंकि जोर के बलबूते, दबाव के बलबूते कुछ समय टाइम तक स्थिति को कंट्रोल में रख सकते हैं, लेकिन समस्या को खत्म नहीं कर सकते.
Then how do you see the regional political scenarios such as the Hurriyat and BP? Could you just throw some light on what would be the developments from their side?
I think what I as a journalist can suggest that if anyone is politics, because it is not going on today. In fact, Sheikh Abdullah played separatist politics in 50. Then he was jailed by then. It was a Nehru government for 10 years in the jail. Nowadays leaders, most of them are jails, lodged in different jails, particularly in the countryside, in Agra, Delhi and Bihar and other places. What goes if Atal Bihari Vajpayee can talk to the militant commanders here through the Home Ministry in the Kashmir Valley? What is the problem if Government of India talks to the separatists? If they have to say something, when L.K. Advani was Home Minister, he had meeting with the Hurriyat leaders in Delhi. Why not this government? So if you want, because there should not be any kind of agenda from either side. But in talking, what is wrong? Then fighting on one another. If you are going to talk, that is the way forward for any kind of resolution, for any kind of dispute. You have, if you want on one side, say the people living in the Kashmir Valley, whether he is the militant or whether he is the separatist or he is a mainstream politician, he is our own person. What Home Minister said during his Kashmir Valley. I had come to talk to the people of the Kashmir Valley. I will not talk to Pakistan. The Hurriyatwala is also the Kashmiri. The militant who is in the Kashmir Valley, who is from the local breed, or who is a local, he also is a Kashmir. He's also a part. Maybe वो रास्ते से भटका है, लेकिन उससे बात करने में क्या हर्ज जाता है? तो और अगर आप उसको ठोसेंगे कि नहीं, हमारी बात मानेंगे, जो हम नेता खड़े करेंगे वही मुख्यमंत्री बनेगा, उसी को वोट देना, उसको वोट देना, वो चीज इस 20वीं सदी में नहीं चलेगी। और उस बीच में कहीं ना कहीं गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को ये साफ कहीं ना कहीं जो रास्ता है, अगर कश्मीर में अमन शांति चाहती है तो ताकत के बलबूते को छोड़कर, ऑपरेशंस की तेजी को छोड़कर बातचीत की प्रक्रिया को आगे बढ़ाना होगा। जिनका अनुभव जम्मू कश्मीर में, चाहे मुख्यमंत्री हो, चाहे नेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस हो, द लार्जेस्ट रीजनल पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ऑफ जम्मू कश्मीर, which is the oldest political party of Jammu and Kashmir, then PDP, with whom the BJP itself formed the government in 2015. उनके साथ बात करने में क्या जाता है, उनके सुनने में क्या जाता है? तो कहीं ना कहीं जो है दिल बड़ा करना होगा गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को भी, होम मिनिस्ट्री को भी, सभी लोगों को साथ लेकर बातचीत की प्रक्रिया शुरू करनी। तो हो सकता है कि कहीं ना कहीं जिस अंदाज से हमने देखा था लास्ट ईयर में, जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने इनिशिएटिव लिया था, बातचीत शुरू कर दी थी, वही वो फोटो अपॉर्चुनिटी रही। उसके बाद उसके मांगे हुई थी पॉलिटिकल लीडर, आई वाज इन फैक्ट कवरिंग दैट जो मांग रखी गई थी पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स की तरफ से कि जो सीबीएम्स है, कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग मेजर्स के लिए क्या क्या गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को करना चाहिए, उनमें से एक भी कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्डिंग मेजर जो है वो शुरू नहीं किया गया, इनिशिएट नहीं किया गया गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से। तो हाउ वी कैन एक्सपेक्ट दैट मिरेकल्स, थिंग्स विल चेंज फास्ट एंड फास्ट। यू हैव टू टेक इनिशिएटिव, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया हैज टू टेक इनिशिएटिव for the Kashmir problem, and then expect that things will get better and better and better.
General Samant, sir, would you like to add something on this?
No, he's covered it quite well. Covered it well. There's nothing more to add.
So then I would like to come to you, sir. Being a China-specific question. Now China has been always vociferous and given whichever platform on the global level, maybe UN or any other, have been always opposing the abrogation. And in fact, it is openly refused to accept even Ladakh as a duty of India. How do you see in future our relations with China deteriorate or improve now with June 2020 Galwan incident happening and then subsequent LAC conflicts also taking place? How do you see the relation between these two countries in the future?
I'd like to start with what the China proposed, CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. They wanted India to be party to it. For obvious reasons, Indian government says no, because there has been Karakoram Pass is an illegally ceded part of India, which India illegally ceded by Pakistan to Chinese. So how do they expect the India to join CPEC when your road is going through our area? We will not join. Obviously, they got cheesed off on that. One belt, one road initiative, same thing. We said no, nothing doing. It was obvious for us. CPEC runs through the illegally ceded area. Now, I do not know whether Article 370 or making Ladakh the Union Territory has actually irked them. I suppose they wanted to be friendly with Pakistan. They always been friendly with Pakistan. And maybe that's the reason they opposed it. But there is one thing certain. China has got a very definite aim. They have a definite aim as regards the LAC is concerned. How they look at the LAC, we do not know. We cannot fathom. Both in Arunachal Pradesh as well as in Ladakh. Of course. Initially we were catching the caught napping, but later on we woke up, and now we have formed additional troops have been inducted. Almost 50 to 60,000 divisions have been inducted. Of course, it has made a little bit of imbalance also in our strategic posture, because the troops which were made for something else have now been inducted into Ladakh. Right. Right. So those people, and they're bound to stay there. There is no way we are going to withdraw those troops. They will continue to stay there. It's very easy to say that we have inducted a brigade, the Chinese have inducted the tank. I have been into Sikkim, and there we had inducted a regiment. As a matter of fact, it is very difficult for the tank in that rarefied atmosphere to move. At that time, we used to go from down below from 14,000 feet, used to go and climb up to the Tibetan plateau at 18,000 feet. The only Indian vehicle which could go up there without halting was Mahindra Jeep. And on the Chinese side, they used to have the Pajero-like vehicles, and they used to come and go around, and what we used to do was hold the hand and make a chain, human chain, to stop them. That's the time we, I was chief of staff of the corps, and we had recommended that we must have those Pajero-type vehicles there for Indian Army also. So they used the Army Commander's Special Financial Pass and inducted some vehicles which now move freely. So whether you put armor or not in the rarefied atmosphere, it is very difficult for even to armor to function in the matter that we expected to function on the western borders or in Rajasthan. But anyway, notwithstanding, Chinese aim is quite clear. The biggest advantage the Chinese had, they have a single party government. They have got plans for next 50 years, and those plans will go through. Whether Xi Jinping remains there or not, they will go through those plans. Right. And unfortunately, on the contrary, our democracy, our people only for those 5 years of their power. And after that, they want to make some adjustment with political parties or whatever, and then they look at next 5 years. Because as regards the long-term view is concerned, they tell the army that we have a perspective for next 20 years. Yeah, we do that. We make out the perspective, but which government has got time to look at your perspective for 20 years? They are just bothered about those 5 years. That is the unfortunate part of Indian democracy. Our government never looked beyond the 5 years that they are in power, and they want to retain the power. So as regards if you come to specifics of the question, we are aware of Chinese views on obligation issue. As regards military issues concerned, it may not have a serious impact, and Chinese will always take action to achieve whatever their final aim is. उनको अपनी मंजिल का पता है, वो मंजिल को जाने के लिए वो अपने हथकंडे इस्तेमाल करेंगे, and they will take all efforts to reach that मंजिल of theirs. So what we can do is keep an eye on Chinese movement. Our troops are there now, both in Arunachal Pradesh as well as in Ladakh. We have to keep our things ready on LAC. And apart from that, politically and economically, we also need to keep our head cool. Because the kind of business that we are doing with China, irrespective of what is happening on LAC, is huge. We cannot afford to lose that. Right. So we must realize our aspirations as regards economics concerned, as regards politics is concerned, and accrue the maximum advantage of this situation. We have to keep an eye on their military movements and make the best of what is available economically. And it should be win-win both for China as well as India. I think that's the only way we can move forward.
Thank you, sir. Ashraf Ghani ji, it's been now 2 साल हो गए application को. How do you see the Awam? How is it taken? The Awam of Kashmir. उन्होंने इसको कैसे एक्सेप्ट किया है नहीं किया और कैसे किया, उनकी आम जिंदगी में क्या फर्क पड़ा है?
मैंने बताया भी थोड़ा सा और भी बताता हूँ आपको कि कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा है आम जिंदगी में, खासतौर से आम लोगों की बात अगर करें, सरकार की तरफ से काफी कोशिश हुई। अगर हम गवर्नर की मनोज सिन्हा की कोशिश देखें, चाहे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को साफ करने की बात, डेवलपमेंटल एक्टिविटीज हो उनको थोड़ा तेजी लाना, चाहे रोड्स बनाने की बात हो, ट्रांसमिशन लाइन्स बनाने की बात हो, टनल्स का जो बड़ा जाल बन रहा है, तो दोनों फैक्टर्स में आम जनता की भी मदद करेगा और आर्म फोर्सेस की भी हाईवेज वगैरह, वो तो सब हो रहा है, लेकिन ये सब चीजें तब तक ये कोशिश पहली सरकारों की तरफ से भी हुई थी। और जैसे जनरल साहब ने कहा, मैं बिल्कुल उस बात से सहमत हूँ कि ये पॉलिटिकल प्रॉब्लम जो है, इसका पॉलिटिकल सोल्यूशन है, ना ही इसका सोल्यूशन डेवलपमेंट है, और ना ही इसका मिलिट्री सोल्यूशन। तो जो पॉलिटिकल पहल है, उसमें सरकार पीछे है, और लोग अब समझते हैं कि आज जाना था, कल जाना था, हटना ही था, या वो एक टेम्पररी एक प्रोविजन था कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। लेकिन उसके बाद जो लोगों के दिल जीतने की बात थी, उस प्रक्रिया में बहुत सरकार है, उसमें कोशिश नहीं हो रही है। इनफैक्ट कई चीजों पर हम देख रहे हैं लोग खुशियां मना रहे थे, 370 हटने की वक्त, खासतौर से मैं अगर लद्दाख की बात करूंगा, जम्मू की बात, अब वो भी जो है दोबारा वो मांग कर रहे हैं, नहीं हमें वही पुराना वाला सिस्टम। उसका असर कैसे पड़ा? नंबर एक बिजनेस पे असर पड़ा। दूसरी बात ये हुई, जॉब्स पे असर पड़ा। अब जब कुछ प्रोविजन उसमें रखे हैं सरकार ने कि अगर पद अब निकलता है, उसमें कोई भी चपरासी का पोस्ट कश्मीर में निकलता है, उसके लिए पहले तो जो आर्टिकल 370 था, तो जम्मू कश्मीर के ही लोग जो हैं वो उसमें अप्लाई कर सकते थे। उन्हीं में से जॉब्स जो सरकारी जॉब्स है, और सरकारी जॉब बड़ा एम्प्लॉयर है, बाकी इंडस्ट्री उतनी ज्यादा खास है नहीं, और कश्मीर में बिल्कुल ही नहीं है। प्राइवेट सेक्टर की बात करें या टूरिज्म है, या तो हॉर्टिकल्चर है, या फिर गवर्नमेंट जॉब, इन्हीं तीन इकोनॉमीज पे जो है उस पर भी थोड़ी आंच आ गई थी। तो अब टेम्पररी फिलहाल रोक के जॉब्स दी जा रही है, वो सिर्फ जम्मू कश्मीर के लोगों को सरकारी भी दी जा रही है। लेकिन कुछ बड़ा बदलाव लोगों के जनजीवन पे नहीं हुआ है। मैं पत्रकार होने के साथ एक पेरेंट भी 5 अगस्त से पहले स्कूल बंद हुए थे। 2 साल से ज्यादा समय हुआ है, अभी तक खुले नहीं। मेरे बच्चे जो है बच्चों की तरह घर पे ही बैठे हैं। आप पेरेंट के लिए ये सबसे बड़ा टॉर्चर यही देख सकते हैं। 2.5 साल, सवा 2 साल जो है, पहले तो इंटरनेट ही नहीं था, 5-6 महीने ऑनलाइन सिस्टम भी चल नहीं पाया। जब थोड़ा सा नेट रेस्टोर हुआ, तब भी जो है उस पे सीखने में, उसको समझने में, बच्चों को पता नहीं कितना टाइम लगेगा। तो इनफैक्ट जो फिजिकली है, स्कूल क्लासेस जो हैं शुरू नहीं। एक अच्छी खबर ये आई है, टूरिज्म हुआ था जून जुलाई से जम्मू कश्मीर में दोबारा, क्योंकि दोबारा सारे लोग देश से बाहर निकलना चाहते थे लॉकडाउन के बाद। लेकिन फिर अक्टूबर में जो अनफॉर्चुनेट जो है वो टारगेट किलिंग शुरू हो गई, तो फिर उस पे थोड़ा सा अंकुश लग गया। लेकिन टूरिज्म तो चलता रहेगा, किसी भी हाल में, जिस भी हाल में जो आता है वो आएगा ही। ये है, लेकिन आम लोगों की अगर देखें तो दुविधा में ये कुछ के लिए अनुच्छेद 360 के बाद कोई काया हुआ नहीं हुआ। हाँ, अब ये हो चुका है, लेकिन उसके बाद सरकार की तरफ से पहल होनी चाहिए। कश्मीर में शांति कायम करने के लिए जो भी तरीके हों वो करने के लिए, ताकि एक बार फिर जो है बिला खौफ एक आम नागरिक शहर में घूमे, बाहर काम करे, जिंदगी। उसके लिए सरकार कुछ भी करना बाकी है, जो सरकार को करना होगा। शायद ही हम उम्मीद कर सकते हैं जो आने वाले दिन बेहतर हो। फिर शायद आम लोगों की जिंदगी बेहतर बने, ये भी याद नहीं रहेगा कि खाया नहीं था, कोई मतलब नहीं रखेगा। लेकिन जब तक इस तरह की परेशानियां लोगों को बार-बार याद आई, बार-बार याद आ गई, इससे हुआ है कि उसके बाद हमारे लिए ये परेशानियां हुई।
Lastly, I'll request your views. Pakistan and China, abrogation of the Articles 1 aspect, but Pakistan and China are going to be constantly creating issues for India with India. But given the fact that somewhere around early 2020, Donald Trump had made a statement said that if the need be and if both the nations agree, US is willing to mediate to get a solution for the Kashmir problem. Do you see any kind of a scenario in future that, because that time we categorically denied it. It's an internal matter. We don't need anybody from outside. Does in future any possibility is there that probably a third country might come to mediate on the issue? General Samant sir? Sir?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't. They will not. Why should we give the thing? I mean, we always been maintaining so far, right from 1947, that Kashmir problem is a bilateral problem. The problem between India and Pakistan. Right. Right. So why should the third country poke their nose in this? And what do the Americans know? Wherever the Americans have come in, they have spoiled everything. You've seen the Afghanistan. Recent. They were there for 20 years, increased the aspirations of people, and then ran away. Right. And they were talking about it's a question of, I'm diversing myself. They claim to have spent $2 trillion in Afghanistan, right, for development. What development has taken place? They have their armed dealers. The money was spent by United States Treasury. They purchased the arms for American arms, and the money has gone back to United States. And this is the kind of a model capitalist country like America always adopt. Wherever they have gone, whether it was Iraq or whether it is Afghanistan, the money that has been to buy the weapons and whatever system they wanted to buy, it has gone back to United States. And that money is not reached Afghan people. Whereas Indians, we made the Parliament House, we have developed roads for them. We are now ready to send 50,000 tons of wheat because winters have come. Winters are there on the door. Right. There is going to be famine. There is already a famine there. Now, the Pakistan is not permitting us to let this. I mean, 50,000 tons, 5,000 Pakistan is not ready to permit our trucks to go across to Afghanistan. Now we have to put them on the ship, go to Chabahar, and then move it into Afghanistan, hand it over to the nation, because at present, except for United States, Pakistan, and China, no other embassies is working there. So it's a huge problem. We want to help. We want to provide humanitarian help. We have made hospitals there. We have put our medicals there. All kinds of people. And that's the kind of. That's why we have earned the goodwill from Afghan people. And even the other day, their Minister of External Affairs was saying, yes, we want Indians to come and help us. We are ready to help. But we are going to only stick to humanitarian help. So that is the difference. I don't think. I personally feel we should not let Americans get themselves involved in this. And I don't think any of our government, whether it is Congress, BJP, or any government of India, they will not permit third party to intervene as regards Kashmir is concerned.
Thank you, General Savant. Thank you, Ashraf Wani ji, for such an enlightening and educationally heavy information. Then now I hand over to Mr. Saurabh for the closing address.
Thank you so much. Good bole, sir. I can say that after watching this discussion on the abrogation of 370, I personally felt a lot more knowledge. I personally gained a lot more knowledge about this discussion. As Mr. Ashraf Wani, a native citizen of Jammu Kashmir, himself told about his experience after the abrogation, and our very own Major General C.D. Savant sir also told us about the military and political analysis of this abrogation. Also, if we have a moderator like Atindra Godbole sir, this panel discussion can go long and long, but the time cannot permit for that. At the outset, I would like to thank Major General C.D. Savant sir, Mr. Ashraf Wani sir, and Lieutenant Colonel Atindra Godbole sir for joining us today. We wish we get to hear you again and be equally enlightened as we all are today. And for my dear massive audience, I'm sure that after witnessing this conversation, you saw the world a little differently, just as I did. As it is rightly said, goodbyes are not forever, nor they are the end. This simply means that we'll meet again. Thank you for joining us today. Until I see you. Saurabh Jaria signing off. Keep watching on Institute Literature Fest to celebrate the love of literature. Thank you.
Thank you. Jai Hind. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to read your book. Right.
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I have given.
Vision Beyond.